Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hour number 3, and here we go. Let's see what's going on in the world out there, all right? What we want to know, I think more than anything, and we have a special guest this hour, is what's really going on, technologically speaking. But behind the technology is, I'll just tell you my opinion, it's evil, pure evil. There's nothing good out there about this. This is something that should not be on the planet that we grew up in, and my guest is Elana Freeland, and her new book is Geoengineered, Transhumanism, subtitle, How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetics, and Nanotechnology for Synthetic Biology. And that is a hell of a title. And this is a hell of a book. Let me read this little clip. Geoengineered Transhumanism is the third book in Elana Freeland's trilogy on geoengineering. It completes the picture of what geoengineering has been from its very inception, decades ago, to control the ionosphere with phased array heater blasts so as to maintain an ionized atmosphere in which chemicals, nanotech, and symbioenergies can be continuously laid out by jets, drones, and rockets in the name of climate change. No, it's not in the name of climate change. In reality, it's in the name of, well, let's have some fun. Welcome to the program, Elana. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff.
It's my pleasure. It should have been 20 years ago.
No, it's fine.
Crazy. Here, in which chemicals, nanotechnology, and symbioenergies can be continuously laid upon us all and within us all by jets, drones, and rockets in the name of climate change. In the real name of what? It's not climate change. What really is it, Elana? What would you call it?
Well, it definitely has to do with the transhumanism that is now being initiated through the third delivery system. I mean, the first delivery system is really from the geoengineering, and that's what I lay out in the first couple hundred pages of this third and last book I'm writing on geoengineering. It sounds bizarre to people that you would have scientists and intelligence agencies and organizations like NASA that would really use geoengineering for control over humanity rather than simply control over the weather, for example. And
May I submit something? May I submit something?
Yeah.
You're right. Control over humanity. But let's take it a little step further. How about extermination of certainly major portions of humanity on this planet? Because this kind of manipulation, this horrible transhumanism that is resulting from geoengineering, is going to lead to the death of civilization as we know it. As we know it. What it'll be replaced with exactly, I don't know. You probably have a much better idea than I do. But it is not going to be a pretty picture.
Well, it goes back to the secret space program that was initiated when John F. Kennedy was gotten out of the way. And we had the paperclip Nazis, if you recall, that had really infiltrated and basically taken over the entire space program. So we go back that far. And when you start looking at the decisions made, then you realize that much was at stake in order to control. And the words I used in the first book that came out in 2014, Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, that phrase, full spectrum dominance, tells the story. The idea is straight from the Soviet astronomer Kardashev years ago, who said that a civilization that seeks to be the greatest has to, first of all, have full control, full spectrum dominance over its own planet, and that includes its people. And then it has to have full spectrum dominance over its star, which is the sun. And many plasma experiments are going on now in the ionized atmosphere regarding the sun, because the sun is entirely plasma. And then the third Kardashev phase is control over the galaxy. And all of this sounds incredibly hubristic, but on the other hand,
just a little,
that's what
yes.
I found.
The Milky Way?
Going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the surprising part, I think, though not to me or you, Jeff, because years ago you had Clifford Carnicom on your show, and he talked about Morgellons. And you knew Jan Smith, who was
very well.
infested with Morgellons and was boldly, bravely going into her own condition to figure out what was going on.
What an amazing woman. Thank you for
amazing,
her.
Yes. And that was the beginning of looking at it from a synthetic biology point of view, that what was coming down from the sky that Clifford was collecting had to do with biology. And so in a way, with this third book, I've gone through all these years and have come back to that biology and recognized it for synthetic biology and the transhuman attempt to create a new race, basically.
Create a new race. Are we talking hybrid ET Homo sapien? Are we talking get rid of Homo sapiens and let's bring the reptiles on and let them colonize the planet? Are we talking about terraforming the planet to change the atmosphere in such a way that it'll be more hospitable to our new caretakers? What are we talking about here?
Well, I can't really go there because I can't prove that. But what
Understood.
I can prove
well, we can speculate with intelligence, and that's about the best we can do.
Yeah, educated opinion. What I concentrate on is the idea that humanity is to be changed. And when I think of that, I go back to some of the criticisms of the space program regarding, for example, getting a human being through the Van Allen radiation belts out into space.
Sure.
And that's not going to happen. Either they're going to be wearing a lead suit, or we're going to change the human being, and this is what I think they're doing with AI systems. The AI systems are not what they seem. They are to change, to have a human being, which is a brain-computer interface, a BCI they call it. And that means that my whole body, and that's how I see the present COVID-19 inoculation program. They are going to replace our nervous and our circulatory systems with synthetic biology ingredients, and we are going to have a neural mesh nervous system that is brain-computer interface friendly, so that when we go into space, these bodies will be machine bodies, not of Mother Nature anymore. And this was hard for me to accept, that it would be that extreme, because right now that's not exactly what's going on. This is a hybrid that they're making now. I consider it a first step toward what they really want in the end, which is a synthetic human being.
Would you define, just for the sake of progression here, and I agree, hybrid? Where are we with that hybrid idea now?
That would be sort of a half-half, partially human, partially synthetic, or otherwise partially natural and partially synthetic. When Clifford Carnicom examined the Morgellons years ago and was able to break through its polymer sheath, inside the sheath he found organs. And one of those organs he had to name the cross-domain bacteria. And what it meant is that one organ, which turned out to be the reproductive organ of this genetically engineered thing that we called Morgellons, that cross-domain bacteria is partly all three kingdoms of nature. So it was purposely engineered to reflect all three kingdoms. So it's what they call now, if you study the patents, it's called inorganic life form. And that sounds like an oxymoron, but it isn't. They really are making, and I thought of this when we saw the Hydra vulgaris in the serum, which is a freshwater, very small reptile class organism. It's in the serum, in the Pfizer serum, and I don't know if it's in the others. And it's being placed in the body.
I would submit this. There was one image of the alleged Hydra vulgaris. There were no other follow-up images of that particular motif of Hydra vulgaris that I saw, and I look. There should have been a couple dozen other scientists. Remember, they were looking at this with a 4,000 or 5,000 power microscope. That was it. This is not electron microscopy. It's an easy thing to see. I think that was, and we've made it clear on this program, a contaminant. A contaminant. Maybe a one-off contaminant. And if you do any research at all on these companies that make these vaccines, you will find a long litany of violations of health and safety cleanliness standards. Let me just leave it at that. They are not meticulous in the way they put these things together. And I say that, and I submit that with a great deal of study and common sense, but I would not go there on a bet. Never. Not for me. We got enough with the spike protein and the new protein that has been found now that is readily available in the Pfizer. I think it's the Pfizer. It might be Moderna, but I think it's the Pfizer. We don't know what the heck it does. We have no idea. It's as big as the spike protein. Now, do you know this? You may know this. The spike protein within it has, this is almost unbelievable. In fact, it is unbelievable, and we talked about it last night on the program. It has epitopes. In other words, replicas, so to speak, of proteins that the human body normally produces en masse for a variety of functions and reasons, and they're in this spike protein. So here's your immune system attacking the spike protein with antibodies. Let's go get it. But at the same time, they're making antibodies to go after the epitopes in the spike protein that are also found throughout the human body. So the immune system attacks the entire human body as triggered by the epitopes in the spike protein, if you followed that. This thing is so evil that let's not even waste time with Hydra vulgaris. It's a one-off deal.
Right.
There were no follow-ups. Anyway, go ahead.
The only reason I brought it up was to point out that there are all sorts of entities that are natural and the inorganic synthetic entities that are being put into people through the three delivery systems. And
absolutely.
As I said before, the first delivery system, I feel, is from the sky, and that is the chemical trails and the flotsam and jetsam coming out the backs of the jets and out the supplementary parts along the wings.
Correct.
And this is all
spray
done
nozzles.
very
purposely. Yes.
And then the second delivery system is the GMO food system, which, as you know, Jeff, the 26 countries in the world have it as a felony to bring any GMOs into their countries.
I know. I find that amusing.
There's something not right about that, but in America, everybody eats GMOs practically. And then the third delivery system is the vaccination system, and that we're already quite familiar with as we study study over and over for the 2 years that we've been subject to this
It's a bioweapon.
as well.
It's not a vax.
Yeah.
It's a bioweapon.
And one thing that I wanted to say so that people would know this before I forget is that the graphene oxide that we now know is with the hydrogel in the jabs is also being released in the winter. It has for years because it helps to create nucleated ice and snow, which most of our snow is synthetic now. So the graphene oxide is coming down from the sky and coming in through the third delivery system. So tell me that doesn't have to do with big pharma and intentional, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they work together.
Yeah, right on it. The other aspect of all this is, and I would suggest there may be a fourth delivery system, and that would be the EMF. And I'm talking about cell towers. And remember, most Americans are still on 4G. They didn't just switch over to 5G when they said they did. Verizon says that they expect to have 75 million people on 5G by the end of this calendar year. So it's going to be 4G plus. It's a boost. That's what they're using. So somebody actually took apart a phone and couldn't find any 5G chips in it. It's supposed to be a 5G phone. So they're a little bit lagging in that regard. So we've got that. We have also satellite potentials for delivering negative EMFs. We also have ground-based systems like HARP for delivering negative EMFs that can go up and right down, and they can influence people. I also personally believe that the electric grid is another delivery system for negative electromagnetic frequencies, and I always have, because I know for a fact that if the electric industry wanted to, it could carry every audio and video channel and signal that people would be willing to pay them to carry. It can all be taken out of the wall plug. But you've got all these industries with their satellite dishes and this and that over their cell lines and their telephone lines. So it's a mix. But I think EMFs should not be ever overlooked, and I know you agree with that.
Oh, no, I don't in fact, I would call it the matrix in which the three delivery systems I point out operate. All three of them depend on this terrible amalgam of what I believe is 4G plus, 5G, and 6G. The 4G plus and the 5G both have phased array antennas in them, and it's the phased array antennas, much like HARP in a macro sense, but in a micro sense it'll be in the iPhone, that really gives tremendous scope, distance, and targeting scope to these instruments of warfare. I mean, that's what they are. I don't own an iPhone, nor do I own a TV. I consider both to be weapon systems. And
they are. You know what else they are? They're thieves. They're thieves of life. They're thieves of mental interaction with our environment, our surroundings.
Yep.
It's terrible. The average American male watches 4.5 hours of TV a day. I shouldn't say watching, because they're not watching. They're staring. They're staring, and they are no longer able to pass any kind of intellectual or moral judgment on that which is flowing into their subconscious, because they've been put in a trance within usually a few seconds. They're gone. So they're drooling reactionaries. There's nothing proactive about that. Nothing.
No, there isn't. And when you say all this ends up as evil, it's absolutely true. And my definition of evil these days is anything anti-human. And it really does seem to be all set up, and that's why I wrote this 690-page book. I'm a little embarrassed to say, but there was a lot to tie together so that people would see that the intentionality of these corporate types and various agencies is very much about surrounding us in the environment, utilizing a weaponized environment to really hold us into it of what in the second book I called the space fence. And that's really when you talked about I think you called it the smart grid. The smart grid is like the space fence. It's just the space fence has the satellites above in lower Earth orbit, and then it has on the Earth the infrastructure, tremendous electromagnetic infrastructure, carefully calibrated to work in concert with those satellites to sandwich us right between for absolute full spectrum dominance.
Full spectrum dominance. There it is. Yeah, you've summed it up very, very well. Elana Freeland is our guest. We'll come right back. She's got 3 books out. Look and guess, and you'll see a link to Amazon for her newest one. Maybe the crowning glory of the 3, but they're all critical. Geoengineered Transhumanism. How the environment is weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetics, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. We're going to talk more about synthetic biology in just a couple minutes with Elana. Hold on. We'll be right back. We are back with Elana Freeland, and we're talking about her new book. Here's a question. This is really difficult for people, and it's always been one of my many little efforts to try to help people understand that what they see and observe, and what is revealed to them on their screens, represents technology that is 30 years, let's just use that for fun, behind where they really are. They're way ahead of us, depending on the disciplines, of course, but they're way ahead of us. It's not something simple. When you see Elon Musk talk about those little implants he wants to put in people's brain so you'll automatically be connected to the cloud and you'll be as smart as anybody on the planet, they're going to line up for that. I guarantee it. They're going to line up for it. And that's what you're talking about. Now, that's synthetic. That's getting close to full-on synthetic biology.
Oh, yeah.
It's not quite, but it's close. And that's what I think your whole book is really pointing to, transhumanism.
Yeah, how we got there, and how it's supported by weaponizing the environment with electromagnetics and chemicals and nanotech. So, yeah, and Jeff, before we go into that, and I want to go deep into it, particularly with the nanotechnology, in part 2 of the book, something very important for people if they have to go to a hospital. I entitled the second part, Surviving the Smart City, and it's about how smart cities are laid out with technology, with masses and masses of nanosensors in the streets, in the walls, with the LED lamp posts that really are deadly, and how the whole smart city appears to be sort of like Palestine or something, like a place that people will have to live, and experiments can be run on them through all the state-of-the-art technology coming in and being put in these clandestine, covert, unseen places, because they're all so tiny, and they're also people are accustomed to seeing street lights. Why would they think that this would be any deadlier than any other street light of the past, that sort of thing? So the second part of the book makes very clear some of the instruments that you will be faced with if you have to go into a 5G, 6G powered hospital. And you really have to know what these instruments do. And I spend maybe 100 pages on that to just give people, so it's not so mysterious, because that is part of the problem, isn't it? That people are faced with such amazing technology, certainly I'd say 50 years in advance of anything they know, and they depend on the experts, and they have depended on the experts, and now we find out that most of the experts are lying. And so I did this part of the book as a handbook for people to prepare themselves for when they have to make those big decisions if they have to go to hospitals, which I do not recommend at all.
Hospital, right now, unless you have a broken leg or some other structural issue, is in many cases a one-way rapid exit from this planet.
Yes.
You are going to die. And I've had people that I know have died. They kill them. These are killing factories now. Yeah. And remember, most of the people there have caved in and gotten the shots. They're not the same anymore. This has changed their hippocampus, changed their frontal lobe. It has changed their personalities. I'd say many of them are screwed up to begin with. They're willingly and actively participating in mass murder. Ilana, I don't know if you agree or not. I'm not talking for you. That's me. That's how I see it.
Hospitals are dangerous places to go. I haven't been to a doctor since I was 13, and I'm 74 now, because I follow natural medicine, macrobiotics, Chinese medicine, anything but Western medicine. And I really recommend to people that they just kind of read a little bit about these things. Don't wait until the emergency comes, but prepare yourselves for high-tech medicine if you think you're going to have to use that avenue.
Well said. Well said. People don't understand when... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to head for what you want me to head for, which is the synthetic biology, because I think I have the answer to something that people really need to know about and know nothing about. This role of nanotechnology is huge. There was a nanotechnology revolution very quietly that went on in the 90s. And nobody heard about it. And
may I say one thing to help bolster what you're saying? I used to have a guest on this program. He was a true nanotech scientist working on the front edge of it in the 90s, and he used to be a guest on the program. He was on, I don't know how many, 6 months maybe, once a month, and then he vanished. Never heard from him again for 4 years, 5 years, and he put out another book having nothing to do with nanotech at all. They told him to shut up. This was big stuff, even though it was quiet. And now it's gigantic stuff. Go ahead. Are you still there, Ilana? Oh, I hope we didn't lose her. Tell me what's going on, Todd. We lost her. Okay. We'll get her right back. Yeah, I remember that guy. Now, fortunately, we have Erica. She's brilliant. She knows nanotech. And she's outside the system. You have to understand that. She doesn't work for a corporation. She could probably take her pick. But this is it now. This is the front edge. And I was just saying, Ilana, that nanotech, I had a guy on the program for months, 6 months maybe, and he was revealing things that were shocking. This is in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And he disappeared. Gone. I think I didn't hear from him for 4 years, if I remember right. And he had a book out, had nothing to do with nanotech. It was about something to do with hearts and minerals and whatever. But the point is, it was quiet then, but now it's still quiet, but it is huge. This is the whole push. This is the whole big major primary push. Nano. It's all nano now.
Yep. Yeah, and how it works, particularly for control over, I want to say, the brain. Let's concentrate on the brain, because that's so important. Our thoughts, our behaviors, our feelings, the way we think we are thinking, and it's not somebody else thinking through us. All of this now, we need to be even on high alert, because the technology, as we both agreed, the electromagnetic technology is now sort of all around us and all through us. Waves are traveling
you got
through
it.
us.
You got
all the time. So rather than, yes, we need to block these things. We need to limit our electromagnetic toys. We need to understand the relationship between 5G and the Internet of Things, of what the 60 hertz in the walls mean. All of this, that where people say, well, I didn't like science in high school. Well, those days are over. This is about survival. And the nanotech is the missing link in many people's minds to understand. Yep. I mean, now they're admitting that there's a lot of nanoparticles. They're admitting the particles in these serums that are being injected into people. Yes, they admit there are nanoparticles. One of the things that kind of blew my mind when I started realizing what it was Morgellons. Morgellons is nanotechnology. It is nano-sized, and it is nanotechnology. So we've come all the way now to graphene oxide and hydrogel and all the carbon nanotubes that are throughout the bodies now. But the important part to remember is that you can be affected remotely by these electromagnetic instruments simply because the nanotechnology is loaded with little tiny computers that are receivers and transmitters. Sure. And so nanotech, as you know, because of its 1/billionth of a meter big, it can go straight through the blood-brain barrier, no problem. And if they're programmed before we breathe them in from the chemical trails, or we are vaxxed with them, or we eat them in our genetically modified foods, they can easily go through the blood-brain barrier, and they are probably programmed in order to prepare for their master calling upon them from some monitor somewhere in Colorado or wherever who wants them to do certain things. Now, that's in the body, and for proof, and people would be very wise to say, what's your proof? Because I don't have one of those $5,000 electron microscopes to see a nano itself. But one thing about nanotech is it's a swarm mentality. It moves in swarms. They are collective. They have a collective consciousness. This is not simply a little atom next to a little atom next to a little atom piece of material. It has a consciousness when they all work together. And this is really, to me, the most concerning aspect. I realized this when I was watching the California fire at Paradise, California, and I saw some drone footage that was really good, and it was following what looked to me like embers being blown by wind along the ground, except that as I looked more and more closely at these so-called embers, I could see that they were moving like a phalanx, like a Roman army phalanx, and they were heading toward the wall of one house, and they would crawl up the wall as a phalanx and ignite that wall, and then some of them would break off while the others continued their work there. They would break off and come down the wall and go on to the next, skip the next house and go to another house, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm looking at nanotechnology.
You're watching machines, little machines at work.
Yes, and remotely controlled. Programmed and remotely controlled. So this is our brain too, not just the California fires. This can happen in our bodies, and this is why I really feel that our biggest defense is going to be, for the nanotech, is going to be our consciousness. And we must know more about these tiny, tiny machines that are operating en masse inside our bodies so that we can face them with our greater human consciousness. We have a very different, much more powerful consciousness than these collective entities.
Well, so far we do, my friend. So far. The race is on.
Yes, it is.
I just think about all the money that's being poured into this and all the intelligence that has been being poured into this for 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know how much. And I wonder, I really do wonder about the much talked about off-planet, call it a treaty, call it an agreement, I don't care what you call it, the off-planet possibility of involvement with humans. We may be being nudged, given little extras here and there in exchange for who knows, something or another. But I wonder if this is all Homo sapien generated. I also think, where are we now, and where will we be in 6 months? It's going that fast.
Well, I mean, in a way, here's my agreement with you on that as far as I feel I can go. Okay, so
sure.
I have met people, and now it seems I'm almost surrounded by a lot of people who I would say are somehow on automatic. They are not, the personality is not there like it used to be in Americans. And I assume a lot of these people have been jabbed. But for some of it, I say to myself, that person has abandoned some primary aspect of being human. I can feel it. I can feel that I'm not really interacting with a human soul in some way. All right. So
I'm with you. I'm there.
My thought on that is there's a law in nature that immediately comes to mind, and that is the law, nature abhors a vacuum. And if that person has abandoned their humanity, there will be an entity that takes up that vacuum and enters. And then it's all bets are off for the human being that this person was. And I'm hearing from people, because of my book, I'm hearing from people about various people they know well who have changed. Their personality has changed. And they're afraid because they know that I've written things on MK Ultra as well. And what has happened to these people? What is it? But there can be something that moves in, and I don't know if you know, Jeff, but I'm a very long student of Rudolf Steiner, so I know there are entities here. I know. My only question would be, could I prove they're off planet, or are they simply the sub-nature that is already here and has been here for millions of years and is now taking advantage of us?
Well said. Well said, and I don't think we need to think of them always as being off-planet. My God, this planet's 4.5 billion years old. They've probably been here forever, of one form or another. Well, who's to say? No one can say with certainty.
No.
I believe they're walking around among us. Some of them, they just look like us. Others don't. There are a lot of machines flying around all over the place. Some are ours, most are theirs, I think. They have cloaking devices. It's very simple. We have a deep space fleet that I do believe exists and has taken us, humans, Homo sapiens, with probably some other passengers around to Mars and around other places of this little solar system we have. We've been around. I've got pictures of those things that are parked in orbit up there. And they're big machines. They don't look like Buck Rogers, but they're big machines. And what are they? Whose are they? You've seen those pictures too, I'm sure. So,
I have.
This is all phenomenally fascinating. And Geoengineered Transhumanism, your new book. You can look right under Elana's name and click and order it. And I urge you to. It's well worth a read and pass along to someone else.
And I wanted to add, Jeff,
Yeah.
so I was not able to make the color copy up on Amazon because it would have been the price would have been just skyrocketed with a 690-page book. So the color version is available at the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle. If people want to get a color version, they pay $15 more, and they can get it there, and they'll ship it. So
worth it. The Rudolf Steiner bookstore.
That's all they need to know in Seattle. Yeah, he's doing me a big favor. Very nice of him.
Oh, indeed, I agree. Well, are you working on your next book?
No, I'm trying to just plan a book tour. In fact, I'll be coming through your area in April and going down to California and Arizona and New Mexico.
We should stop at Jordan's Metaphysical Library here.
Yes, I heard about it. I did hear about it. I do want to see it.
By all means, and he'll put you on. You can make a little presentation, sell a few books,
really?
make some new friends.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Jordan Pease. You just contact them, the Metaphysical Library here. Use my name for whatever it's worth. And,
and that's in Ashland, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You must stop here.
Okay.
For
all
sure.
right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay, indeed. Thank you for being here. And I was just thinking about how much energy you have put into these works, how much research, how much thought. Because you go back, I knew Clifford. We had a lot of programs together. And Clifford is extraordinary. And Jan Smith was just one of a kind. And we have just amazing Cliff Mickelson, my friend, who has had Morgellons for decades.
Oh, yes. I know his name.
Extraordinary man, and he's on the program frequently. He's just a great friend. And I've seen it like you have, and I've seen too many people suffer in silence. I don't know how Jan Smith did the heroic work she did. What a great woman, great human being. And I'm very grateful you knew and you're speaking well of her. She certainly deserves it.
And Glenn Scott. I don't know. Did you know Glenn Scott?
I knew the name. I think I talked to him perhaps once. I didn't talk to him a lot, but I certainly did know the name. And I commend you on your remarkable achievements of these 3 books.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thanks so much.
If you come to town, I will see you. It would be
fun. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, Elana.
Good night.
Thank you.